everyone, this is Jen O'Neill and I'm going to give you a quick walkthrough of my project so far. My project is on digital storytelling as a tool for study abroad reflection, and I've decided to use Prezi as a presentation tool. I've also decided to implement the Prezi video function, which is something I've never used before, so I'm excited to see how that works out. That video function will be incorporated into my final project presentation, but for now you'll see quite a bit of gray area, but in the actual presentation that area will be filled with me as I will be video recorded as I'm presenting. So after a quick overview of the presentation on this page, I will jump into this slide, which is a summary of some of the main components we'll be covering in this first portion of the presentation. And then we will go into the evolution of storytelling, and I'll explain traditional storytelling as its evolution before going into what we call now digital storytelling. And here I will talk about the definition of what a digital story is, the components that make up a digital story, and its uses. And then we will go into the next section, which talks about the history of storytelling. And I'll briefly cover this history, highlighting Joe Lambert as he was a pioneer in the field. Here we'll have our first example of a digital story so that people can get a sense of the medium we're talking about. Next up will be why we use digital storytelling, and here this slide discusses the benefits of digital storytelling, and it outlines the reasons that it can be an effective tool in education. And next up, potential challenges. We'll talk about these challenges a little bit, especially the challenges that educators might face if they wish to incorporate digital storytelling into classrooms or institutions. Alright, and then we will jump into study abroad, specifically in the context of using digital storytelling. Study abroad is something we're focusing on in this presentation, and how digital story has been used and how it can be used. So moving ahead with that, we will talk about the benefits of study abroad. And this graph displays and highlights what study abroad can bring to students. And it's important to know this because it really leads us into our next slide, which talks about the stages of study abroad. There's really 4 main stages of study abroad displayed on this image here, and I'll explain each stage and then finish the slide with the importance of the reflection step, which is the last step of this process. And then we'll go into digital storytelling, a reflection tool in study abroad. And here I would like to talk about the importance of structured reflection after the study abroad experience. And this is a necessary component for high-quality student outcomes. Then we'll jump into adapting digital storytelling to study abroad. And on this slide, I'll talk about the similarities between the digital storytelling process and the necessary steps to attaining key study abroad learning outcomes, such as experiential learning, engagement, and reflection. This slide will tell a little bit about some success stories with digital storytelling and the study abroad experience, one from a trip to Mexico and the other to China. And this slide talks about the importance for deep reflection in learning environments, and how digital storytelling can provide a way for students to be more present in their reflection process and to really connect to content in a more in a deeper way, a more impactful way. Here we'll look at another example, which is pretty powerful. This was a digital story that a student made. So looking at the time, we're going to quickly run through these steps, but this is the digital storytelling process, starting with the idea and the fact that everyone has a story. Next up, we'll talk about how to brainstorm with students. This one focuses on digital storytelling in study abroad, like we've been talking about. Another brainstorming idea as far as parsing out the information that the students are working with. I also have another example of a digital story at the bottom of this slide. Alright, so the next step in the process is writing a script, which we describe here. We go on to step 3, which is storyboarding, describing what a storyboard is. Giving a little George Lucas quote, which is fun, and it leads us into our next portion, talking about the elements of storyboarding and why they're important. And then how to build a storyboard. Everything from old school to drawing your storyboard to some online tools like Canva and Storyboard That. There's also a video here about storyboarding with Canva that should be helpful. Step number 4, collecting media. This gives us an idea of what kind of media students can be collecting. And then some media resources for students who don't have the material themselves, and we can also talk about copyright issues and Creative Commons. Step number 5, putting it all together. This is when we take everything we've been doing and put it in one spot, and we talk about this on this particular slide. Jumping into some digital storytelling tools, and there's a lot of tools out there that people can use. These are some of the more popular ones. I'm going to focus a bit on WeVideo and how to create a digital story, which this video talks about a bit here. Step number 6, you're going to share your digital stories, and we're going to talk about different ways to do that and who your audience might be. And then step number 7, reflection and feedback, which is a crucial component of this process. Alright, quickly through the last few slides. Digital storytelling in higher education. We outline some places that it is being used and can be used. A conclusion talking about, we have to remember that the story is the important part of these digital stories. Technology is just a modern day component of that. And then we reflect again on some engaging opportunities in the educational field that these can bring. A little bit about traditional assessment in the classroom. And then, really embracing digital storytelling in education. And then my references will be on this last page. So I know this, especially the second part of that, was a very quick run through, but I hope this gives you a general idea of my presentation. I look forward to your feedback. Thanks.